Where are you? Hmm.
Oh, it started the recording. Well, okay. Um, First off, welcome everybody. Um, we're not going to have very much German translation because everybody speaks English and understands English that's on this particular ceremony, Zoom thing. I was just telling people, we got several people up in Canada, and I was just telling them about how Canada got its name. And if you're not from the United States or Canada, you won't get it. But anyhow, there was two French explorers. They were sitting around a campfire after they came over to the new continent, and they said, "This is a really nice land, eh? Don't you think it's a nice land, eh?" And the other guy says, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. We should name it. We should name it, eh?" And they said, "Well, okay. Here, let's put a bunch of letters in this bag, and we'll pull them out, and we'll make a name for Canada, yeah? Or not for Canada, for this country, eh? Because in Canada they all say, eh." So he reaches into the bag and pulls out the first one. It's C. Ah, it's a C, eh? He pulls out the next one. It's an N, eh? Pulls out the next one. Anyhow, you can see where I'm going with it. But it ended up spelling Canada. So, okay, we're going to start. Um, this is normally our monthly new moon pipe ceremony. Oh, yeah, it's recording. This is normally our monthly new moon pipe ceremony, but we're doing something different. There are times that come around, if you're a pipe carrier or a pipe holder or a pipe caretaker, which is the one I like the best, there are times where you need to do a pipe ceremony, but you don't have a pipe with you. Or maybe you've flown to somewhere and they didn't let you take the pipe on the plane, which has happened. So I learned this from an elder a long time ago. And he told me, he says, you can't do public ceremonies with a pipe until you know how to do a pipe ceremony without a pipe. I'm going to pause a little bit just in case there's any questions for Paul, to have it translated. And he had been in prison. And when he was in prison, it was they weren't allowed to smoke, but they would smuggle in cigarettes. And so what he would do is he would do a pipe ceremony without a pipe and not smoking the cigarette, but he would use some smuggled in tobacco for this. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to talk just a bit about tobacco because this came up with Ralph, one of our students, last week with me. And he just really does not like the taste of tobacco. And I wrote back to him and I said, well, I don't use tobacco in my mix that I smoke in the pipe. I use herbs and they're much more pleasant. You don't inhale them. and you don't inhale the tobacco if you're using tobacco in a regular pipe. We'll say, oh, slowly, the squirrel's back. Last time he was filling my buffalo skull with food for the winter. Anyhow, so we talked about it, and he told me what he did when he was in prison. And when he shared that with me, I tried it. And I found that the ceremony, we can call it a pipe ceremony. It's the same ceremony with a few little changes that we would do with a pipe, putting pipe together, loading it to the different directions, all this. But obviously, we don't have the physical pipe with us, so we change a few things. And since I don't use tobacco in my mix, but I do use tobacco for this particular ceremony because, if you have organic sacred tobacco, it's a good offering to the spirits and to the Creator, to Mother Earth. A lot of times I tell people, no matter where you are in the world, if you need a pipe ceremony, contact me and ask me to do one for you. And I say, and then take some tobacco, or if you have smoking mix, a pinch of it out to a tree and put it at the base of the tree and ask the tree to connect the energy of your offering all the way to me here in Montana. And that connection through the trees especially, because their roots go deep and their roots interconnect all over the world, even under the ocean. So when people honor the request with a little bit of tobacco, which Grandma Lily told me was really important to have, it's the chain of energy, the exchange of energy. I used to do pipe ceremonies for healing and all sorts of things for people without, I'd meet them, they had a need, they had cancer or something, and I'd say, oh, I'll do a pipe ceremony for you. And she corrected me. She said, no, to honor the tradition, you have to have somebody give you a little pinch of tobacco. So, so as you can see before me, I have a really cool white-tailed deer antler that I use as a base for my abalone shell. This is a very special abalone shell. The first editor of my book, before Shannon, she had a tumor in her neck, and she died before she could finish editing it for me. But when she passed away, she left me this particular abalone shell, and I normally don't bring it out because I don't want to break it. It's got nice pink color on it. But anyhow, I have a couple more that I use normally. You don't have to use an abalone shell. If you want to use a wooden bowl, that's fine, but it's going to burn eventually. And if you have a metal bowl, that's still material from Mother Earth, so that's okay. A glass bowl is okay, but they tend, if they're not, fire treated. But anyhow, whatever you do, whatever you use to burn your sage and sweetgrass in and stuff, that's what you're going to use for this. And I even have a little tiny abalone shell that's about this big around. I think I got it for $1.25 US at a store here. And I carry that when I travel. So I have a shell to put it in. The reason we use a shell over other things is that the shell represents the water part of nature. And sorry, Sololi, the squirrel, he's gathering these great big apples that grow behind my house, and he can barely make them up here. And he has to eat them for a while before he can get them up into his nest or her nest. I don't know if it's him or her. I don't know if you can hear that. But that's a call saying, whoa, warning everybody, there's a human out here. But it's not afraid of me. Anyhow, I'm sorry. That's what happens when you have ADD, attention deficit disorder, as an adult. We call it squirrel disorder, because whenever a squirrel runs by, I get totally sidetracked. And then I have to go, what was I talking about? So anyhow, so we start off with a smudge bowl. I'll just call it a smudge bowl. And I use four ingredients in it. The first is sweetgrass. I have just a little bit left of this. I received a gift from the keepers. They gave me 6 braids of sweetgrass, which is not. I mean, we can get it anywhere here in the United States, but over in Germany, what's it called? It grows over there. I think it grows near the water, and I don't know the name of
Süßgras.
what.
Süßgras.
Moose?
Süßgras. Süßgras.
And by the way, if anybody on here is the person that told me that they found a place in Germany where you can buy Knick mix, sweetgrass, sage, like the kind I'm going to use here, there's now a trading post somewhere in Germany that sells all these things because they grow it there, which is great because for those of you not in Germany, getting a bundle of sage like this, the longleaf sage, is really expensive and really hard to do. So they've really done a good thing. Anyhow, the first thing I do is that I take the sweetgrass and I break it off. I like to roll it around and break it off. I don't burn it in a braid because it goes out really quickly unless you have a steady breeze or something. So if I lit this right here, it would go out really quickly. But if I take this and I just break it up and put it in there, it burns quite well. Now there's a reason I'm doing that first. Then second, I'm going to use cedar, the needles from a cedar tree. And then the third thing will be the longleaf sage. And I explain all of that in the first pipe ceremony video from last spring. So I think, oh, hi, Carolyn. She's my local pipe student friend, massage therapist, and learning cranial sacral therapy all in one. She's a busy lady, and she's really nice to my mom. So anyhow, I take a pinch of, let me put it close, of the needles or the leaves, I guess you call it, of cedar. And I put that on top of the sweetgrass. Now, when we burn all this stuff, there's a progression that happens that does several different things. And I guess I will explain that. You can go back to that first pipe ceremony. It's quite long and in German translation. But anyhow, so then the next thing I do, I think I still have some sage in this bag. When we use these bags that are made from animal skin, like deer hide, we're honoring with the shell, we're honoring the water people. We'll just call them that, the water nations. And when we use the hide of a deer, for instance, we're honoring the animal kingdom. And when we use the herbs, we're honoring the the plant kingdom. And I've said this 100 times before, but I'm going to say it again. The reason a pipe ceremony or any indigenous ceremony from around the world works really well for healings and all sorts of things is because we incorporate not just human thought or going to a church where it's just basically a building with human thought. We're incorporating all of the creation, Mother Earth, everything that is in her, on her, and above her, all of her children, which we are part of. And that's what gives the power to these ceremonies. That's why, even though I'm not going to use a pipe today, we're going to get the same results from this ceremony as we would normally get from putting a pipe together and working with the spirit of the pipe. So anyhow, I may need to gather a little more of that sage. I don't know if this will last long enough. Okay. And then the last thing that we're going to use in this particular ceremony is going to be tobacco, specifically organic tobacco. It's not even the old kind of tobacco that used to be cultivated by native tribes. It's modern cultivation, however, it is organic. And I'm going to start with using, well, I'm going to have a pouch of tobacco that was given to me to honor a ceremony, but I have a cigarette. Can you believe that? We're going to use the tobacco from this cigarette to do a sacred ceremony. And I know some of you smoke and all that, and that's okay, but I really want to encourage you all to use natural organic tobacco when you're smoking. Then you don't have all those chemicals. Because the real problem health-wise with cigarettes is that they have those chemicals in them. And I just have found that tobacco is too strong for me. If I do a pipe ceremony and I'm puffing on the tobacco, but I'm not inhaling, I get dizzy. I get a buzz, so to speak. So I prefer not to use it in my pipe. But you're going to see, we're not going to smoke it. We're going to burn it and send that smoke up. And of course, the smoke is the spiritual expression of the physical herbs. And it crosses the boundary. There's many of you might know about what's called the blood-brain boundary in our head. It keeps a lot of contaminants out of getting into our brain, but whatever it allows across that boundary goes into our brain and affects it. Smoke is spirit's way, creator's way of getting our thoughts, our prayers, whatever you want to call it, across the physical boundary of right here off into the atmosphere. And did you know that smoke doesn't stop until when it gets to the top of the atmosphere, it keeps going into space? Water vapor does the same. And water vapor comes from space in the form of ice and replenishes our water on the earth. They didn't know that until about 10, maybe 15 years ago. They thought there was no connection between, but anyhow. So with that, I'm gonna light the bundle of sage that's sitting on the cedar and sitting on the sweetgrass. And briefly, the sage cleanses us and takes our prayers. The cedar protects us from negativity during a ceremony. And the sweetgrass carries the prayers up into the atmosphere and also calls in spirits like the thunder beings and some like that. So anyhow, if you all have questions, feel free to type them in, but I'll have to wait till the end because my screen is so small, like I said. And the reason I like this sage, which it's called longleaf sage, sometimes it's called prairie sage, is because you can wad it up in a ball like this, light it, and it doesn't flame, but it will completely burn through as a coal. Now, if you don't have access to that, which is common in Europe and other places, you can go to the local Christian bookstore and look in the Catholic section, and you can buy those little tiny black charcoal discs that they burn incense on, and you light them, and the whole thing just starts sparkling and lights up, and then you have that in your bowl, and you could put whatever sage or anything else you have in that or on that. Now, do you have to use sage? I recommend it, but you don't have to use the kind of sage I'm doing. If you have that little charcoal thing, you can use what we call white sage or California sage, which you crumble up. It's really brittle, and sprinkle on it. Or in Germany, you can use, I'll probably mispronounce it, Bofus. Does anybody? Yeah, Bofus. Bifus, yeah. There you go. It's been a while since I've been here, but my mom's in a really good care facility now, so I will be back in Germany and Austria in the second half of March and most of April. So anyhow, so we light this up, and so what do? I have to cleanse myself with the smoke of the sage because I'm doing ceremony, which is like a feast, and I don't want to dirty anything up with anything I've been working with or doing or whatever. And again, there's not a right way or a wrong way to smudge yourself. But I like the way I do it because I learned it from Serge. Serge and Sylvie taught me about, it's nice to smudge your ears, keep things clean going in. Good to smudge your mouth so what's coming out is good. I like to smudge my heart, but I love Paul. He is such an intelligent and kind and considerate person, and he makes a fire with bow and spindle faster than anybody I've ever seen. He's amazing. So anyhow, so now I've cleansed myself. Any item I'm going to use in the ceremony, I cleanse it in the smoke as well. Now, normally I would use the pipe, and I would put the pipe in the smoke, and there's certain protocols on how many times and all that stuff. But protocols are just the human way of trying to remember how to do it. And if we do it from our intuition, we'll do it right. So don't make this a rule. This isn't what I'm teaching you guys is not a rule that you have to follow every time. Okay. So I'm going to smudge the tobacco. Who knows where this tobacco has been? Somebody gave me as a gift during a ceremony here in Montana a cigarette, which is fine. So I smudge that. I smudge the other tobacco that's in the pouch, which was also given to me. And I use tobacco for making what we call prayer ties. I talked about that when was it? A few weeks ago. Oh, about sweat lodge ceremony. I did a recording about a sweat lodge ceremony, and I used tobacco to make what we call prayer ties. Some people call them tobacco ties. But we put the prayer into the tobacco, wrap it up in a little colored piece of cloth, tie it up. It looks like one of those little ghosts that we used to make as kids with the Kleenex or the tissues. Anyhow, so if I'm going to use tobacco in a ceremony, this is something else. This is organic, but it's also, I can't remember the name of it, the scientific name, but it's the original rustica, something rustica. It's the original tobacco that Native Americans used. But again, it's so powerful. The nicotine is so strong that if you were to smoke or inhale a lot of this, it could literally kill you. Now, nowadays they refine it and everything, but I can recognize it. It is the original tobacco. And then I'm going to use a feather. And because we are not limited by time or space during ceremony, because we're operating in a completely different dimension or realm, I'm going to send the smoke from this to you guys to purify all of you guys. And if you close your eyes for just a minute, and I'll let you know when I'm done, just see if you can feel it coming in. I've had a couple people tell me they can smell it, even over in Austria. Okay, so now that we smudged, the ceremony has started, and I will walk through it. And this is where, if you have questions for a translation, feel free to interrupt, even though it's during a ceremony. I love having children at ceremonies because they don't know the protocol. They're just natural about it. And they're the ones that end up seeing the spirits and hearing messages and all kinds of things because they're just innocent. We adults tend to be too much in our heads. Now I have to go find a veteran to come in and do a certain special dance because my feather blew off the table and it's on the ground. That's if I follow all the rules. Now, obviously, I don't have any veterans around here, and the ground to me is sacred. The feather is sacred, so I don't feel the need to do that. But if you're in a powwow or a big gathering, And that happens, that's the protocol. You have to get a veteran, a war veteran, Native American war veteran, to come out onto the powwow grounds, and everything stops. All the dancing stops, because the powwow is not a ceremony, it's a social event. And everything stops. They have a special song the drummers play, and a special dance that this guy has to do to basically go over and recuperate and get the feather back off the ground so they can continue the powwow. But it's a good example of rules and regulations. You know, it's if it's done in a good way, honoring things, that's fine. If it's done because it's the way it has to be done, or we'll all be cursed and have bad luck, that's not a good thing. So just unwrapping the sage because I'm going to need more. Whoever wrapped this sage really wrapped it. Well, it came from Pipestone, Minnesota. So I think it was some of the kids that are part of the keepers, the pipe keepers there. But it's really good sage. And again, the wrapping is cotton. You can use anything natural to wrap up something sacred, but it's best to honor the nature and to use natural things. Okay, so before we start the ceremony, I want to prove to you guys how this works just as good as a pipe ceremony. So I want all of you to be thinking about something you want to ask Spirit about or for. And there will be a point, I'll hold up a pinch of the tobacco at the 8th direction, so to speak, and I'll tell you when, and you can send your thoughts through the ethers to this pinch of tobacco and put into it a request. I'll tell you what my request is. I need new tires on my Jeep. And it's not in my budget at this time. But I've had this happen before every 3 or 4 years after I wear them out. And I put it out there. And one time I had a guy contact me like within 2 or 3 days. And he said, you know, I've got these brand new tires that are on my Jeep, but I wanted big tires. So I haven't even driven it on them hardly at all. Would you like it? He didn't even charge me any money. And so I got my new tires. Well, winter's coming, so I need some new tires. That's what my request is going to be. And I'll report back to you guys about that. But be thinking about what is it that you either want, need, or just whatever request you want to make of Creator and your helping spirits. And it'll be part of the ceremony. So, okay. I could either take the bag of tobacco or the cigarette. I'll just use a cigarette. And I start by smudging it, I like to do it 4 times in the smoke, clockwise or sunwise. And then I hold it up to the Creator. And I say, Osio ya, Wiende ya. Basically, I'll say things that are honoring the Creator and letting the Creator know that I have a request. And I do that in Cherokee, but that's what it'll be. So, and you can just say it in German or English or French. The thing is, what really makes me amazed is how pipe ceremonies can be done in any language. Sorry, the squirrel just dropped his apple. He's way up in the tree, and now he's down here trying to figure out how to carry it all the way up there, and it's bigger than half of him. Anyhow, maybe that's a sign. So what I was saying is that the Creator, I'll just use one tribe's example. The Lakota people from the plains say you have to speak Lakota during a ceremony, especially a pipe ceremony, or the spirits can't understand you because they only speak Lakota. Well, that's pretty ridiculous. I mean, how many languages are represented here? And if we can't pray in our own language and believe that the Creator can understand what we're saying, that really limits our idea of who and what the Creator is. I mean, the Creator gave us language in the first place, and therefore, and the spirits, they understand everything we say, no matter how we say it, or even if we just think it. However, what I've learned is they don't have permission to invade our thoughts. It's only if we open our thoughts through ceremony and say, okay, I'm just going to think this out, in my mind. And then the spirits have the ability to, with respect to us, to hear our thoughts. So you don't even have to verbalize your prayers. One thing about that, and I know I'm kind of going on and on about this, but vibration in the realm of quantum mechanics, which we could also call the spirit realm, vibration of sound is really important. And what I've learned in my last 10, 11 years of studying quantum science, it matches up so perfectly with indigenous spirituality. It's amazing. And but one of the things that they say is everything is created from vibration. And therefore, if we want to make our thoughts manifested to the universe and to the Creator, it's good to make a noise. Now, the Aboriginal people that I learned that from, for 30,000 years, they've been using didgeridoos. And a lot of times when I'm sending out a thought, I hum through my nose. There's another whole reason for that, but I just hum through my nose. I go, and that is a powerful vibration that takes everything out of your brain, your thoughts and everything, and sends it into this dimension. So these are just little things. You can take them and use them if they help you. If they don't, just fast forward when you listen to the recording. The other thing that transfers our prayers or our thoughts is smoke. And I already explained all that. So my sage is burning out, and so I'm gathering more right now. But in this ceremony, you have to keep the sage or something burning the whole time. There has to be smoke going up. And that's not a rule, it's just a fact of how it works. Okay, what time is it? Good. We're going to get this done in less than an hour. Now, my sage is already burned out, but I'm putting a new fresh ball of sage on it, and I push it down in there. And the other herbs, especially the sweetgrass, still has some glowing, so it'll more than likely it should start smoking. If I find the feather and give it a little air. So a lot of people say to me, why don't you blow on it instead of using a feather? And there it comes. The reason I don't, and it's just my way, is that I feel like blowing my breath onto that bundle of sage is kind of disregarding it or disrespecting it. But I know tons of other people and tribes that blow on it because they feel they're giving the breath, the gift of their breath to the sage. So I don't know, I just learned that way, my way, a long time ago, and I've always done it that way. But there's been times that I've blown on it. But right now, this feather is giving it the life it needs. And we're getting smoke back off of it. And this should be enough. Okay, so where's the cigarette? There it is. So I already smudged it, and I'll hold it up in my left hand. It's the closest to my heart, and say, "Greetings, Creator. Greetings, grandmothers and grandfathers." Well, that's too soon. Greetings, Creator. Great mystery. I honor you. I am a part of you. I, as a human being, am an integral part of you and all of your creation in Mother Earth. And I ask that you would listen to these prayers as we do them in ceremony. Another thing about calling on the different directions, they're already here. Creator's already here. Creator is with you all the time. Never leaves you, ever. all we have to do is get our consciousness aware of the presence of the Creator. So I say, thank you for being with me all the time and helping me in so many different ways. And then I'll smudge it. Well, there's actually two ways to do this. The best way is to just break it off. And you sprinkle whatever tobacco, pipe mix, whatever, a little bit for each direction right on top of that sage, and it'll burn. So then I take the cigarette and I go to the south and I say, basically, greetings, Grandmother Owl, greetings, Grandmother Lily, greetings, Waiaha, the coyote spirit, which, believe me, has been one of the best teachers of my life. Not so gentle, but a really good teacher. Waiaha Onega, that's Kamama Onega, that's the white butterfly. Normally I would do all this in Cherokee, but today I'm just doing it all in English. Wado, thank you. Come and join us here with this ceremony and enjoy it with us and bring your medicine and power here to help us with the requests we're going to make. And then I take the cigarette or the bundle and I just squeeze it, and well, it's not coming out very well. That's okay. I'll burn the whole thing later. What we're going to do is we're going to use this tobacco. And it's a kind of a very dark color. I don't know if you can see that or not. And I smudge it, and then I put that on there. So we're doing the same thing you do in a pipe ceremony, but we're doing it without the pipe. And so then the next direction, of course, is west. So I take a pinch, and then I hold it over my left shoulder because I'm sitting down and I don't want to get up and turn. And I call on the spirits of the thunder beings, of the bear spirits, and Mishimako, and Motosape, the mountain grizzly spirit, Tuodi, the hawk, Waya, the wolf. And I ask all of you to come here and join us in this ceremony and hear our prayers, hear what we think, so that we can get a good result for our requests. Now that means a good result for our requests means that we let go of all expectations. I need new tires, but I'm not going to block in how they come to me or if they even come to me. I mean, I could make it through the winter, but I probably get stuck a lot. But anyhow, if you're not attached to the outcome of your request and you're not attached to how it comes about, like I said, I had this guy offer me brand new tires, and I thought I was waiting for money to come in so I could go buy the tires. But we leave it up to the universe and the Creator to answer our request. So then we go up to the north, and Oseo Uzaya. Greetings, great white spirit, great white north wind. Greetings, all the provision spirits, Moves, Wapti, EDC, Gogi, Awi. Greetings to the sacred women, spirits that have brought the pipe to us. In every tribe, pretty much it's always brought to us by either a being or a being that becomes a sacred woman. Gichisabe, of course, so those of you who know, that's our great friend, Bigfoot or Sasquatch. I ask that you would come and bring your medicine here, and Uluhatli, the bald eagle. Thank you very much. Come, Wado, come and join us in this ceremony and bring your power for all that we need here, because we are interdependent on you. We're not just dependent, we're interdependent, because we play a huge role in creating what goes on in our life with our thoughts and our intentions. And of course, next we go to Grandmother Earth and Mother Earth, Anamaka, Inamaka, Ozda Elohi, the good earth, and all her children that dwell in her, on her, and above her. I call on all of you in spirit realm there to come here and join with us in this ceremony and honor us with your presence and your power. And then to the creator above, again, I'll just say, Wiendea, Kahata Hikinakoshka, Tikiri Shte Kinakoshka, Kamama, not Kamama, Yatani, Gichi Manatu, Tenkashla Jesus, Jesus, Yahweh, and Ududu, and Kahuhachiniki, Wendy Antea. Come and join us here, or make us aware of your constant presence in our life. And then this is the second to the last one. This is honoring the human being. And I speak my name and who I am and my tribal connection, my clan. But it's not just me, it's all of us, we human beings. So you could even be thinking in your own mind, if you have a spirit name, you just say, I am Kamama Onega. I think one of you guys is Kamama Onega, if I remember right, which is white butterfly. But I am Blapi Matolumpa Ankanyanka. I am Blapi Maoglas and Kang. We en Nawoti Tuglu. We en Taliona. We en Chalagi Aniwaya. Ohayokashkani. So I join all these spirits, and we all join all these spirits, just like we do in the pipe, in this ceremony, and bring our medicine, our power, our abilities there. So here's the last one. And this is the one we're going to put our request, our thought, our intention. Somehow I spilled a whole lot of cedar on the ground between my feet. Oh, well. Must be Mother Earth wants some cedar. So I'm going to hold this up, and all of you just look at this pinch, and I'll be quiet for a while and project into this pinch your request. And I'll be silently. And for those of you that know my technique called the athro technique, where you use your tongue to the roof of your mouth and stuff, it activates the pineal gland, or excites the pineal gland, and it causes your thoughts to go out into this thing here. If you don't know about it, just email me later. Okay. Okay. I did add a little expectation, but then I countered it by saying, if it's the best thing, I said, could I get studded snow tires? And I don't know if you guys have those over in Europe, but they have metal studs in the tire, and they're great for on snow and ice and stuff. But we'll see what's best for me. So again, not being attached to the outcome. Okay. And I just made a mistake. It's not going to negate anything, but I was just reprimanded by the spirits. You don't throw anything during ceremony. Why? Because it can be misinterpreted. Oh boy, that's strong tobacco. It can be misinterpreted by the spirits that you're asking help from and confuse the results. And I did. I just threw the sage pieces away over there. So I apologize to you guys, and I apologize to the spirits. So now we're at the end of the ceremony. And remember, if you want to go back and learn this, you'll have the video. But also, if you go to the first video on my webpage, which is www.tree-gilmore.com, and then all one word, World Tree Way, all one word, .com, and go to the recordings of the pipe ceremonies. Go to the very first one, and I spend a lot of time describing why I use this herb, why I use this feather, why I use all these different things. And you can just mimic that, but do it without a pipe. So now that that's all done, I'm going to close the ceremony. And then if you have any questions, I ask you to unmute yourself, because if I have to read it, I got to get down and go over there with the other glass. So what I do is I say, thank you to everybody that took part in this ceremony. I say thank you to you guys. You guys are who I call my Oganali. And that means in Cherokee, it means my chosen family. And then when I say Oganali, I also mean my chosen spirit family. And I didn't choose them, they chose me. So that's a whole nother teaching about how to know who your spirit helpers are and all that. And then I send everybody away, you guys, as well as the spirits and creator, with the word Tohidu, which means prosperous peace. It means go in peace, but it's much more than that. Go in prosperous peace. So I'll just close this ceremony. Normally we take the pipe apart, but instead I'll just say Wado Oganali, Nawoti Oganali, the spirit family. Wado, of course, is thank you. Tahidu Oganali, Tahidu. There. And then for me, the ceremony won't stop until everything is burned up. But as far as the spirits and everything, we're done. So with that, any comments, questions, or whatever? I'm always amazed. I seem to dumbfound everybody to silence. Oh, and I have to burn up the cigarette too. Well, Paul, you did a great job of translating.
Yeah,
I really
you're welcome.
Jim, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, Dito and I were just observing, and we wondered if there is a filter on that cigarette, what do you do with the filter?
I throw it away because it's not.
It's not rude.
And the
No.
paper too, right?
And the paper too?
Yeah, I just they're not tobacco.
Just the tobacco.
Okay.
So tobacco is the sacred herb. The filter and the chemicals and this doesn't have chemicals, but the filter and the paper is not. A matter of fact, I think they might bleach the paper for all I know.
Okay.
So I normally, that's one of the reasons I don't use tobacco very much. I do use them, like I said, to make prayer ties where I put a prayer in it and then hang it. Jeez.
Gonna smoke.
Gosh. Woo. That's why I don't use it in my pipe. Oh, that was a strong hit. Where was it going? Oh, prayer ties. We can put them in a tree. You can make up a string of them and have different prayers in each one and different colors for different directions. And you can hang it in a tree and leave it up there until nature just dissolves it. Or if you have a prayer tie and you're using it in a sweat lodge and you go in the sweat lodge and you put it above your head. Normally I wait 3 days. Some people wait 4 days, and either the fire tender or myself, the water pourer, will go in and gather all the stones that are in the cradle or in the hollow area inside on the ground and take the grandfathers, the stones out and put them back in our pile of stones, and then take all the prayer ties and make a little tiny fire in the fire pit where we heated the stones and burn all those prayer ties.
Oh,
Jim, do you remember a number of years ago my prayer tie story?
No, I don't.
You helped me through way back in like 2005.
Mhm.
It was just after I'd edited your book. And as you'll recall, I was still married at that time.
I remember.
And it was not going very well for me. And you invited me to take part spiritually, obviously, in a winter solstice ceremony. So I went. I hung the prayer tie on the only tree I could get to because it was 3 feet of snow and minus 30 degrees. And every day I drove past that prayer tie for about 6 months until May, when I came around the corner and the tree was on the ground because the beavers had cut it down. I remember phoning you, Jim. And 6 weeks later, my husband left. And yeah, so that's always been an amazing story. And they do work.
Yep, yep. And I'm sure that looking back on things, I'll just say that divorce is one of the hardest things I've ever gone through in my life, but it's one of the best things that happened to me. It wasn't fun. Wasn't fun. But looking back on everything, it's like, wow, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. And I wouldn't be traveling and doing the things I'm doing if I was still married to my wife. She's a good person. You know, we just had a really bad time and you know, all that stuff. But my whole life changed. It took a couple of years, maybe more, but my whole life changed. And I was free to pursue my own spirituality and experience and all the coyote lessons. So
For sure, but I always think back on that and how, you know, you helped me through that in the prayer tie, and you know, it was very much a testament, right? An actual story. And
Yep.
you know, the beaver medicine too, right? That came and cut down the tree and took away the prayer tie. The prayer tie disappeared. I never saw it after that. So
that's interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah. My daughter visited me here in July, and we went for a hike, and we came to a place where the beavers had chewed down a tree. And she said, "Oh, let's collect all those little chips. They carry beaver medicine. That's going to be really good for us." So I have that chip in my Jeep. So, and it also has fond memories, of course. So, but yeah, good beaver medicine. Beaver is about commitment, sticking with something no matter what. So that's good. Okay. Well, we've been online for 1 minute less than an hour. I'm going to go ahead and shut it down, and I'll send each one of you guys the link. And I'm really trying hard to get it on YouTube, not publicly on YouTube, but so you can get on YouTube and just watch it. So you don't have to, but if I can't, like the Sweat Lodge one, I had to have it as a download that you had to go in and download the link and, you know, store it. But I'll get it pretty soon. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward
Bye.
I'm looking forward to seeing some of you guys in March and or April. And then I don't know if Serge and Sylvia will be coming to Pipestone this year.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that we're all looking forward to that.
Are you
Okay.
going to do a winter solstice ceremony?
I will do one here locally, and I will do one in December wherever the new moon is. I think it's more in the center of it because the solstice is on the 21st, I think.
Yes.
And as most of you know, the women know that Martha Brewer does the ceremony, the Zoom pipe ceremony for the women on near the full moon. And I do the new moon, but that's also, it's very Cherokee to celebrate on the new moon versus
Well, that's tomorrow, the new moon, right?
yeah. I just do this on the weekend because, you know, who's going to join me when they got to go to work the next day. So, all right. Well, much as my dear friend down in Australia says, she calls me Uncle Jim. She's an amazing gal. She's done a lot of my videos, some of my older videos. She's a cinematographer. Her name's Nick or Nikki. She always ends something with big love.
Big love.
Big
Yeah.
love.
Big love.
Bama
Okay.
P, my friend. Bama P.
Bama, what?
Bama P.
Bama the?
Oh,
Yes.
Oh.
Romantic translation, I'll look into your eyes again. Short version, see you later.
Oh, I like the long version.
Is it possible, Jim, for you to stay online for just a minute after you turn the recording off?
Who's saying that?
Bright Feather and Dito.
Okay. What I'm gonna do, I'll just end the recording, that's right. And then everybody can just log off and we can talk.
Okay.
There. I just ended the recording.